The phone rang at 3:07 a.m., slicing through the silence like a knife. Alex jolted awake, his heart pounding. He grabbed the receiver, his hand trembling. "Alex?" The voice on the other end was distorted, like it was filtered through layers of static, but the urgency was unmistakable. "You have to listen carefully. They know where you are. They're coming for you." Alex's pulse spiked. He slammed the phone down, the ringing still echoing in his skull. Was it a prank? A wrong number? His mind raced, spinning out of control, but then, through the window, he saw it, a dark silhouette, standing motionless across the street, watching him. No one should be out there at this hour. His breath caught. This wasn't a joke. Whoever called knew something. Something he didn't. And worse, they had already found him. Alex sat on the edge of the bed, the dim light from the street lamp casting long shadows across the room. His eyes were heavy, weighed down by sleepless nights and the crushing burden of failure. The apartment felt suffocating, every inch of it a reminder of the distance growing between him and the people he loved. His marriage to Laura had become a distant memory of what it once was. The spark that had drawn them together was now a flickering ember, choked by arguments and unresolved resentment. Laura had left months ago, taking their son, Jason, with her. The emptiness of the apartment echoed her absence. Their relationship, once filled with warmth, was now buried under a mountain of unspoken words. Alex tried to reach out to Laura, but his calls went unanswered. He was left with the fragments of his life, trying to make sense of what had gone wrong. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape the gnawing feeling that something deeper was at play. A sense that he was failing not just as a husband, but as a father too. Jason's absence cut deeper than anything. The little boy who once clung to him like a shadow now seemed like a distant memory. Alex couldn't remember the last time they had a real conversation or when the small moments of joy had slipped away. Was it his fault? Was he too consumed by work, by his own demons, to notice the fracture lines forming in his family? The guilt was suffocating. Every time Alex tried to sleep, he saw Laura's face, disappointed, distant, and Jason's eyes, wide and cold, as though he had already grown up and left him behind. Jason was never a typical child. At 8 years old, his intelligence was otherworldly, his ability to solve problems, read people, and manipulate situations far beyond his years. But it wasn't just his mind that set him apart. It was the intensity in his eyes, the way he could observe without ever speaking, calculating every move before it happened. Alex noticed it more than anyone else. Jason was different now, colder, more distant. What had once been playful curiosity was now an unsettling precision, as though every word and action were carefully chosen. He didn't need to ask for things, he demanded them, his eyes sharp as knives. It wasn't a matter of simple intelligence, it was a quiet authority that Alex couldn't explain. Laura had always been the one to manage the household, but Jason was taking on a new role. He was protective now, watching over Laura with a vigilance that bordered on obsession. He noticed everything, the small shifts in Alex's behavior, the way his mother's eyes lingered on the door, waiting for Alex to return. It was Jason who first mentioned the name Tom, the person who had been threatening them for weeks, a name that Alex hadn't dared to utter aloud. It was Jason who insisted on installing the security system, checking it every night with the precision of a seasoned professional. Jason's quiet demeanor only added to the mystery. While Alex struggled to piece together the unraveling threads of his life, Jason seemed to have it all figured out. But the more Alex watched, the more he realized just how much he didn't understand about his son. Jason wasn't just growing up, he was becoming something else entirely. And Alex couldn't shake the feeling that one day, Jason might just be the one who saved them, or destroyed everything they had left. The letter was short, cold, nothing like Laura's usual gentle words. It arrived in the mailbox weeks ago, but Alex hadn't been able to bring himself to read it until now. "I'm leaving, Alex. I found someone else. Someone who makes me feel alive again. I'm taking Jason with me. You can't provide what we need. I've taken everything. Our savings, our home, all of it. Don't try to find us. Don't." Her words echoed in his mind, a jagged knife twisting with every syllable. He knew something was wrong. had sensed it in her silences and distant looks. But this was a betrayal that shattered the foundation of everything he thought he knew about their family. Anger, sharp and burning, clawed at his chest. How could she? How could she abandon him, abandon Jason without a second thought? He had worked so hard to provide for them, sacrificing his time, his spirit, and she had thrown it all away for Damien, a man Alex knew nothing about. Nothing made sense, but what hurt most was the damage to Jason. His son, the one person Alex thought he still had a connection with, was gone. He was torn between his own fury and the desire to protect his child, but Jason didn't seem to care. When Alex confronted him, Jason's response was chilling in its indifference. "I'm better off without her," he said flatly, eyes locked on a game console screen, his face unreadable. No tears, no sadness, just a coldness that froze Alex to the core. It was as if Jason had already moved on, had already accepted the fact that everything had changed. Alex had never felt more alone. Jason had always been smarter than any kid his age. But as the weeks went on, his brilliance began to manifest in ways that terrified Alex. Jason had an uncanny ability to piece together information, to read between the lines, and to manipulate situations like a master strategist. It wasn't long before Alex realized that Jason wasn't just processing his family's collapse, he was calculating his next moves, planning ahead in a world Alex couldn't understand. Jason didn't just accept Laura's departure, he dissected it, studying every detail like a puzzle that needed solving. He spent hours in front of the computer, scouring through old records, tracking financial transactions, and digging into Damien's past. When Alex asked what he was doing, Jason simply shrugged. "Figuring out how to fix things," he replied, his voice empty of emotion. What Jason uncovered shocked Alex. Damien, the man Laura had left them for, was tied to a network of shady businesses, illegal dealings that stretched far beyond the ordinary scope of betrayal. He was dangerous, connected to people who didn't hesitate to hurt those who crossed them. But Jason wasn't afraid. In fact, Jason saw an opportunity. He began manipulating the situation in subtle ways that Alex couldn't even begin to comprehend. Money was funneled into accounts, false identities were created, and plans were set into motion. Jason didn't ask for help. He didn't need it. He had already decided what needed to be done. Alex, meanwhile, was left in the dark, struggling to keep up with his son's newfound maturity and cunning. The more he watched Jason, the more he began to fear that Jason wasn't just trying to fix things. He was orchestrating something far larger. And then, one night, Jason came to him with a single piece of information. "Damien's weak. I know how to take him down." The chill that ran down Alex's spine was like ice water. Damien wasn't the type of man to take things lying down, and when his empire was threatened, he responded with brutal force. Alex hadn't known just how deep Damien's anger ran until one evening, when the doorbell rang at an ungodly hour. Standing in the doorway was a figure Alex didn't recognize, a man with a cold, calculating stare. The stranger's words were simple but deadly. "Damien wants to see you. If you don't come, things will get worse. For both of you." Fear coiled in Alex's stomach. He didn't know what to do. The sudden reality of being caught in a dangerous game hit him like a punch to the gut. He had no power here, no leverage. Damien was a criminal, a man who could ruin lives without a second thought. And now, he was coming for them. But what terrified Alex even more wasn't the threat. It was the way Jason had reacted. Jason had been calm, unnervingly so when Alex told him about the encounter. "It's just a warning," Jason said, his voice cool, detached. "I know what to do." Alex's stomach twisted in confusion. His son, his 8-year-old son, was planning to confront a man like Damien? He tried to reason with Jason to convince him that they needed to get out, to run before it was too late. But Jason was resolute. "I've already planned everything," Jason replied, his eyes cold and unwavering. "This ends now, and I'm the one who's going to finish it." Alex felt powerless. Every instinct screamed that they needed to escape, to leave before it was too late. But Jason's determination, his eerie calmness in the face of danger, made him wonder if they were already too far gone. The storm was coming. and Alex didn't know if they could survive it. The weight of it hit Alex all at once. His son, Jason, was handling situations that no child should ever have to face. Alex had always known Jason was different, more intelligent, more aware of the world than other kids his age. But this was something else. Jason had manipulated a dangerous criminal, a man with ties to a world of violence and corruption, and had done it with a coldness that shook Alex to his core. Alex's mind was a battlefield. He was proud of Jason's brilliance, in awe of how his son could see things in ways no one else could. Jason had always been the one to fix things, to figure out solutions when Alex felt lost. But the more Alex watched Jason, the more the fear settled in. What would this do to him? What kind of person would Jason become, carrying this weight at such a young age? The innocence of childhood seemed to slip further and further away, replaced by a calculating, almost ruthless intelligence. Alex wanted to protect him, to shield Jason from the consequences of his actions. But how could he when Jason seemed so far ahead? He couldn't even keep up with his son's plans anymore, and it terrified him. Jason didn't need his protection. That much was clear. In fact, Alex was starting to need Jason's intelligence more than ever. As much as he hated to admit it, Jason was the one guiding them through this storm. Alex felt like a passenger in his own life, his reliance on Jason growing by the day. The idea of losing control, of being dependent on his son's genius, twisted his gut with guilt. But could he stop Jason now? Could he pull him back from this dangerous path? Alex was trapped between two opposing emotions, pride and fear. The future seemed so uncertain, and no matter what, he knew one thing. Jason had already begun to change in ways that couldn't be undone. Jason had been quiet for days, his mind churning with a plan that Alex couldn't even begin to understand. He'd been meticulous, calculating every detail, never once hesitating in the face of danger. And then, one night, he finally spoke. "I've set everything up. We're going to take Damien down." Alex had been stunned, unable to process what Jason was saying. This wasn't just about running from a dangerous man anymore. This was a plan to destroy him, to expose him in a way that would ensure Damien's downfall. Alex had tried to stop him, tried to warn him about the consequences, but Jason's resolve was unwavering. They waited, their breath caught in the tension of the moment, as Damien walked right into the trap Jason had set. Alex watched in disbelief as the plan unfolded, every detail playing out with eerie precision. Jason had used Damien's arrogance against him, manipulating the situation so that Damien's own criminal ties were exposed to law enforcement. It was like watching a master puppeteer control every move of a puppet, and Jason was the puppet master. When the police arrived to arrest Damien, Alex felt a mixture of relief and horror. The man who had torn apart their lives was finally going to face justice, but the cold satisfaction on Jason's face left him uneasy. This wasn't a victory Alex had anticipated. It was one that came with a price he wasn't sure he was ready to pay. Damien was gone, but as Alex looked at his son, he couldn't shake the feeling that the boy standing before him was no longer the innocent child he had once known. Jason had crossed a line, and Alex feared that this moment would be the beginning of a dangerous path from which there would be no turning back. In the days following Damien's arrest, the house felt strange, like the calm before a storm. Everything was technically fine. Damien was locked away, and the family was safe for now. But the silence in the house pressed against Alex, suffocating him with its weight. Jason was quieter than ever. It wasn't that he was sad or angry. He just seemed distant, as though he had already moved on to something else. He was always in his room, tinkering with gadgets, reading books that were far too advanced for his age. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that Jason had slipped into a world that Alex couldn't reach, a world where he was both too young and too old at the same time. Life had returned to normal in the most unsettling way. The house was still standing, and Alex was still there. But everything felt fragile. The peace they had fought for seemed too delicate, like a thin sheet of glass that could shatter at any moment. As Alex sat in the quiet of the living room, he found himself reflecting on everything that had led them here. Jason's genius had saved them. But at what cost? What kind of future awaited him? What kind of man would Jason become, carrying the burden of everything he'd already done? Alex didn't know how to guide him anymore. His son had already crossed so many lines, and Alex couldn't even begin to understand where that path would lead. The fear that Jason might be too far gone, too hardened by the world around him, gnawed at Alex every day. The future seemed like an abyss, and no matter how hard he tried to reach out, he couldn't see a way forward. They were safe, for now. But the silence in the house felt like a warning. Jason was changing, and Alex was afraid of what would happen when he couldn't keep up anymore. The phone rang late one evening, cutting through the quiet like a sharp crack. Alex stared at the screen, his heart skipping a beat when he saw her name, Laura. He hadn't heard from her in months, not since she'd taken Jason and walked away, leaving nothing but the wreckage of their lives behind. But now, something in her name sent a chill down his spine. He picked up the phone, unsure of what to expect. Alex, I need to talk to you. Laura's voice trembled on the other end, breaking the silence. It was a sound Alex hadn't heard in a long time, the sound of her vulnerability. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I thought I was doing the right thing, but Damien, he's not who I thought he was. He's ruined me, Alex. He used me. And now, I don't know what to do. Please, I need your forgiveness. I need you. Can we try again? Alex closed his eyes, the words stabbing him like shards of glass. His first instinct was to offer compassion, to comfort her and welcome her back into his life. But the memories of her betrayal, of her abandonment, were too sharp, too painful. He couldn't just erase it all. No, Alex said, his voice steady. I've moved on, Laura. It's over. As he hung up, the weight of his decision settled over him. The temptation to forgive had been there, but he remained firm. He had to. Jason, who had been sitting nearby, didn't even flinch at the call. His eyes were distant, cold. You did the right thing, he said, voice flat. But the lack of emotion in his tone made Alex's stomach twist. Was this the new normal for his son? Had Jason become so detached that even the hurt of their broken family meant nothing to him? It had been days since Laura's call, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in Jason. The boy had always been unusually perceptive, but lately, his behavior had become unsettling. Alex had hoped that, in time, Jason would show some emotion about their fractured family, some sign of the child he once was. But instead, Jason's demeanor had grown more calculated, more distant. Alex couldn't hold it in anymore. He needed answers. Jason, he said, sitting down across from his son, who was engrossed in a book. We need to talk. Jason didn't look up. About what? Alex hesitated, searching for the right words. I need to understand something. The way you've handled all of this, how cold you've been. It's like you've shut everything off. Your mom, me. What happened to the boy I used to know? Jason put down the book and met his father's gaze with an unsettling calmness. The boy you knew doesn't matter anymore. I'm fixing things the way I know how. Emotions only get in the way. Alex's heart sank. Fixing things? You're talking about manipulation, about controlling people. You're 8, Jason. This isn't normal. You've been acting like a grown-up in a world you don't understand. Jason's response was chilling in its matter-of-fact tone. I understand more than you think. I'm just doing what's necessary to make sure we're safe. You're welcome, by the way. Alex couldn't find words. The weight of Jason's words hung in the air like a heavy fog that refused to lift. Jason wasn't just smarter than other kids. He was operating on a level Alex couldn't comprehend. What Alex had once seen as a gift now felt like a curse. Jason's ability to detach from emotions, to see the world in black and white, was a sharp, double-edged sword. And as much as Alex tried to hold on, to guide him back to a place of innocence, Jason had already moved beyond that. Jason was right. He was fixing things. But Alex was beginning to wonder what the price would be. Alex sat alone in the dimly lit living room, the weight of the past few months pressing down on him. He watched Jason, who was sitting at the kitchen table, scribbling away on a notebook. There was an unsettling quiet about him now, a silence that Alex couldn't shake. The boy he had raised seemed so far away, lost to a world of his own making. a world where logic and strategy reigned over everything else. It was then that Alex realized the truth that had been haunting him all along. Jason's brilliance, his genius, had taken him places Alex couldn't follow. Jason had always been different, but now Alex wasn't sure if that difference was something to be proud of or something to fear. "Jason," Alex began, his voice trembling despite his best efforts to sound steady. "What happens when you grow up? What happens when the world isn't as simple as solving problems or playing people? I don't want you to lose yourself in all of this. I don't want you to become someone who can't feel anymore." Jason didn't look up, didn't respond, but the silence in the room spoke volumes. Alex's heart tightened. He loved his son. He would always love him. But Jason's path was leading him into dark waters, and Alex wasn't sure if there was a way back. The future loomed ahead, and with it the chilling realization that Jason's mind, his gift, could either save them or destroy them. Alex didn't know which one was more likely,